Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for holding this important hearing. And let me say to both the chairman and the ranking member, it's been a pleasure working with both of you on constructive suggestions to improve this bill and to move forward. And I look forward to doing that in the future. Our current law on chemical safety, the Toxic Substances Control Act of 1976, is broken, and it is a weak statute that desperately needs fixing to protect our families. It gives us no confidence that our everyday products are safe, and clearly we must improve it. I'm particularly interested to hear from our witnesses today, and I want to make sure they hear from me as well. A lot of focus, attention, and concern has been given to the compromise Lautenberg-Vitter legislation in the last month or so. I think the surprise of a compromise bipartisan bill on such a controversial topic added a lot to the urgency many felt to make comments. I know that at times Senator Lautenberg had nearly given up hope for a bipartisan agreement, but he was a fighter and he never stopped trying. We will all be lucky if we have a fraction of the perseverance he had. I know his widow, Bonnie Engelbart Lautenberg, has a statement. I just want to read a small portion of that because it shows the passion that Frank put into this compromise legislation. Bonnie said, "In the last few months of his life, Frank did something that has become all too rare in Washington. He negotiated bipartisan legislation to solve a major problem facing our country. Frank worked with Senator Vitter to develop the Chemical Safety Improvement Act, a bill that would for the first time require testing of tens of thousands of chemicals that are used in everyday products. Frank was proud of his work on this new bill. In fact, after a meeting with Senator Vitter, Frank told me that this bill would be bigger and save more lives than his law to ban smoking on airplanes." And Madam Chair, I would ask that her full statement be inserted in the record. Let me make sure that everyone hears from me as a co-sponsor of this bill. I'm fully committed to working with you and everyone else to improve this bill where there are legitimate concerns. This is a very important part of the process to pass substantial legislation. But I urge you to be constructive in your criticism and help us improve the bill, and I would underline improve there. When I was deciding whether or not to co-sponsor the Lautenberg-Vitter bill, I based my decision on two very important questions. Is this bill better than current law? And do we have a, number two, do we have a political opportunity to enact this as law? On the first question, is it better than current law? I believe it is. It takes important strides towards fixing the main elements of TSCA that have kept the EPA from effectively evaluating and regulating hazardous chemicals. The Chemical Safety Improvement Act strikes the least burdensome requirement that has crippled TSCA from banning dangerous chemicals such as asbestos. It would for the first time mandate safety reviews for all chemicals currently in commerce. It would for the first time require an affirmative finding of likely safety as a condition for market entry of new chemicals. And it would for the first time allow EPA to require testing by issuing orders instead of having to use the time and resource-intensive rule-making process, and would eliminate the requirement that EPA first show likely risks to high exposure to require testing. It would substantially increase access to chemical information by the public, state governments, and medical and health professionals that currently cannot be disclosed based on confidential business information claims. Since its introduction, many experts have had the opportunity to examine and review it. As I said, this is an important part of the process, to solicit and receive feedback on legislation. As a result, I believe there are many things we need to improve in the bill, such as more firm deadlines and timetables, and better confidence that vulnerable populations will have adequate protections. And wanting to hear the witnesses, Madam Chair, at this point, I would just ask that my full statement be put in the record, and I would yield back.